JRPGs is one of my favorite genres to unwind to at the end of the day. They're always full of such beautiful storytelling, amazing characters, and just rich, expansive worlds that I can get lost in them for hours. So I wanted to talk about a few of my favorite cozy JRPGs on the Switch. I feel like I don't see JRPGs really talked about a lot in the cozy game community. I'm giving some of these recs to see if I can convert some people into the cozy JRPG realm. But first, I can't make a list of JRPG games without talking about one of my favorites right now on the Switch that I put so many hours into, and that is Final Fantasy X. There are a few Final Fantasy games on the Switch right now. I actually am a latecomer to the Final Fantasy franchise because I've always heard about the Final Fantasy games but never had the means to play it, and playing any JRPG on the Switch is like a perfect match. And it's been like 20 years since it's released. I find it to be such an ageless classic of JRPG. So you get to play the story as Titus, who is zapped 1,000 years into the future from his city Xanarkin and taken to this vastly different landscape where everyone has this like religion that they follow, not based on using machines or machina to function. And there's this giant entity called Sin, which is trying to consume everything in its path. There are really beautiful cutscenes in this. I really loved I love progressing more in the game and getting to see more of the story. I feel really connected to all of the characters through the different cutscenes, as well as just being able to fight with everyone and come up with different strategies with the turn-based battling. I was never really a big fan of random encounter battles when it comes to like JRPGs, but this one has really made me appreciate it more and get more into like the grinding element of it, and also understanding how to strategize with your characters and which ones are the best to keep in your group. All the voice acting, even though it's been 20 years, the voice acting is kind of cringy, hilarious, but I really love it at the same time with the English voice acting. So I definitely recommend it, especially if you want to haven't gotten into any of the Final Fantasy games. This one would be a great one to start with, even though all of the stories are standalone. So next game is Fire Emblem Three Houses, and they did just release a new Fire Emblem game, but I will say, even though I haven't gotten to that one, Fire Emblem Three Houses, it holds a special place for me as well. It's really what made me want to start collecting more of the Fire Emblem games. Start out as this mercenary turned teacher. Well, you get to pick from a man or a woman to play from, and depending on which one you pick, that kind of like changes the story just a slight bit. It's how you interact with the different characters, and also the characters that you're able to romance. You're at this monastery, which is like the highest church of the land, and you get to pick from 3 different houses to teach. Each house has like a different type of weapon style, so there's a lot of story involved. Depending on the house that you pick, there's technically, it would be like 3 different games in one, because each house has like a different storyline, and also storylines all meld together. So you kind of have to play through each house to be able to have an understanding of the full lore of the game, which I think is so amazing and so like ambitious for a JRPG. So there's like elements when you have downtime or being in battles where you're able to run around the monastery and use these like points that you rack up to interact with your students and interact with the people in the monastery. So that means like going to church to like do choir, like cooking, having lunch. You can also do like little tea parties with a character that you choose and also up your ranking with that character. I also love that you're able to romance the character. Okay, it is a little bit weird that you're able to romance your students but the students are also very close in your age. Like some of these students range in different ages, but they're not really far off. Like I think you gotta be like maybe a year, like 3 years or so older than your students, and some of them are actually older than you that are in these classes. But even though it is slightly weird that you get to romance some of your students, but you can also marry them, and it's really like such an interesting story. It's so complex. The next game is Shin Megami Tensei V. This came out last year, but I hardly ever actually hear anyone talk about Shin Megami Tensei. I played it, like I remember picking it up, actually went on sale literally like right after it came out, maybe a month or two, and I got it for a really good discount. But it was like something that was like so fun to play for me. So yeah, you get to play as the student who on the way from home gets like kind of zapped into this like barren wasteland land of Tokyo, and you're not really sure how or where, and they're in this landscape. There's these demons that are trying to attack you, but then this like kind of like deity type figure, like angel like figure, basically melds with you and gives you these powers to be able to fight the demons in this world. So you get to explore this like giant barren landscape, and then also fight these demon characters that are there, and you can also build allyships with some of the demon characters and use them to fight in the battles with you. So it has like a little bit of a Pokemon aspect to it. I was like kind of not sure if I wanted to add this in, mostly because I kind of like spooky things, and like I'm not sure how anyone feels about like the demons aspect or just even like the character design. Like it's not like a cutesy designs. Like some of the demons look super weird and creepy. There's also these things where you can use some of the demons to meld together to create a different, more powerful demon. So one of my favorites that I created was a mermaid, and I love it so much. Like she's in my group forever. Because like she can use like siren calls, and like it's just really cool. Like I love that aspect of the game, but like more people should be playing it. And also, if you didn't know, the Shin Megami Tensei is actually like a spin-off kind of thing of the Persona 5 series. So if you're really into Persona 5, then you'd love the Shin Megami Tensei series too. So next game on the list is Xenoblade Chronicles 3. And yeah, Xenoblade Chronicles 3, I also have not finished this one. The JRPGs are really long. The story is very emotionally tolling. You start out the game as Noah, who's an Offseer. So you're a part of this like army of warriors who, after 10 years of service, they end up getting ascending, which is like some big like rite of passage, but basically it means that you die after you completed your service, and there's like that's pretty much all you're made for, which is to fight. And sometimes you don't even make it to that 10-year time. Noah plays as an Offseer who is like, he is able to send off the soul of that person through like this flute that he has, and it's really beautiful. Yeah, you basically end up in this unlikely allyship between the opposing team soldiers and the other warring army, where you end up on this journey where you have to uncover the dark secrets why everyone has to constantly be fighting, and how all of this works out in the bigger picture of the world pretty much. It's such a beautiful game. Like, so you're able to like explore these different landscapes and areas and fight these different monsters, and it's like a real-time kind of battle system for people in your group who have different strengths. So you can, if you wanted to pick to be a healer, you can be that. You could be like the heavy lifter in the battles, and it's just like so many different elements to the battle system, which I find so interesting. And I really love that it's kind of like between kind of turn-based, kind of real-time. Like it's like interesting battle system I haven't actually experienced before. The last one is Rune Factory 5. So I've talked about this game a bit. Like this is actually one of my favorites of last year. This one kind of like mixes a bit of like combat and also farming. So if you like that, like those different aspects, is so great. So you fall from the sky, and you're the stranger in this like new town, and they appoint you as this ranger, pretty much similar to like how most farming sims start out, which is that you get this like land to be able to farm. Then there's also dragons that you can get later on that you can use to farm on as well. And then you're able to go out into like forest areas and fight these different monsters, and you can also catch them as well. So you can use them to come back to your farm, and they can also be used in some of your farming. Yeah, so there's like different elements to it, different layers and complexities to like the relationships you can build. And there's also an option for same-sex marriages in the relationships, and I really love that they added that into the games, because I don't think the previous Rune Factories had that. I feel like it's really underrated because it does kind of run weird on the Switch, I will say. Like it has little laps of the frame rates and things like that, but other than that, I really enjoyed it, and I find it like so calming to play. Okay, so hi, this is Future Delaney in editing. And I completely forgot to add this game into the list, which is the whole reason this list started, and that is Atelier Ryza. So I've been doing the gameplay let's play of this on the channel, but this is like the epitome of cozy JRPG. So you get to play as Ryza, who is learning about alchemy, and she wants to learn more and become a student, and her other friends also want to like do more with their lives, which is like learning their different types of things that they want, which one of them wants to be more book smart, another one wants to like know more about combat. But yeah, they're all trying to learn about themselves and like what they want out of the world. It's very cute. It's a lot of like gathering elements where you get to run around and gather things. You get to fight different types of monsters to gain materials that you can use to take back to your alchemy pot to make like these different new using alchemy, which the system is kind of similar, like a puzzle type based system, or just like having more of an understanding on it. It's very kind of intricate and really cool to figure out, and I would definitely recommend this game, especially if you just want to spend time out in the woods gathering and being a cottagecore girly. It's one of those, definitely one of those vibes. Yeah, Atelier Ryza. So sorry that I forgot to add that in the list while I was actually recording, so there you go. So those are some of my favorite JRPGs, some of my coziest JRPGs that I love to play and get lost in. So what are some of your favorite JRPGs that you love to play on the Switch? And let me know what you think of some of these games. Have any of you gotten to play them? And I hope all of you guys are doing well as always. And if you made it this far into the video, thank you so much for watching and have a wonderful day. Bye.